For thousands of years, scientists sought a magical substance which would give them infinite power, wealth, even immortality. It was called the Philosopher's Stone.
It's the stone that helps transmute metals into gold. It's equated with the elixir of life, which imbues people with immortality. It transforms pebbles into crystals and rubies and gems.
The quest for the stone would captivate not only great thinkers and emperors, but fraudsters and opportunists too.
Think about a person who could make gold. They could rule the world simply by being able to produce massive amounts of money.
The stone was shrouded in secrecy, black magic, and risk. Those who dabbled were literally playing with fire.
In the pursuit of the great elixir of life, they were in fact damaging their health and probably shortening their lifespan by decades.
The search for the stone is a powerful story of ambition, greed, death, and despair. It's a tale of mavericks, magicians, and men who paved the way for modern science and medicine. And the quest isn't over yet. The Philosopher's Stone is perhaps best known in Britain through the best-selling book and movie, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. But its origins go back thousands of years to the ancient world. In those times, a philosopher was a seeker of wisdom, a powerful sage who endeavored to unlock the secrets of the natural world. The Philosopher's Stone was said to be the key. For thousands of years, the search for the stone has obsessed the civilized world. No object except the Holy Grail has become so sought after.
For some individuals, the search for the Philosopher's Stone was an all-consuming passion. It was an obsession. They were looking for the thing that perfects everything. And for this, they were willing to expend all their energies.
The first accounts of the Philosopher's Stone date to about the time of Christ. But it's clear from the way they are written that the stone had already become a legend throughout the ancient world.
The earliest mention of it I've managed to unearth is a treatise attributed to Maria the Jewess. That's probably from somewhere between 1 and 300 AD, and she's already talking of the Philosopher's Stone and its efficacy in transforming base metals into gold.
The Philosopher's Stone was reputed to have two incredible powers. The first was that it could be used to turn base metals such as lead and copper into gold, creating potentially limitless wealth.
Think about a person who could make gold. They could rule the world, they could tear down all the social and political structures that have been built up simply by being able to produce massive amounts of money out of lead or iron or copper.
But the Philosopher's Stone was said to have another, even greater power.
The effect of the Philosopher's Stone on the human body, supposedly, was that it could extend human life to its utmost extent.
It could potentially make the holder of the Philosopher's Stone immortal.
With such high rewards, it's not surprising that the search for the Philosopher's Stone consumed the greatest minds for centuries. But what exactly is the Philosopher's Stone? To begin with, it's not actually a stone at all.
The Philosopher's Stone is not a solid, rocky substance, but a compound substance that would have been a kind of almost a liquid or a gel.
The commonest description is that it's an unusually heavy red powder, or sometimes a red stone or a red globule. But you also encounter it as a yellow, waxy material, perhaps something like amber.
The Philosopher's Stone is also not something that already exists and can simply be found. Instead, it must be created. The problem is, no one knows exactly how.
It is often said the stone is the most common thing on Earth, and the most rare. It's everywhere and nowhere. It's the most difficult thing to do, yet it's child's play.
The earliest claims of success come from Middle Eastern philosophers who wrote in the 6th, 7th, and 8th centuries.
The Arabs led the world at that time in the development of mathematics and in medicine. They had the greatest doctors in the world at that time and the best medical schools.
They claimed to know the ingredients for making the compound that is the Philosopher's Stone, and to have mastered the dangerous processes needed to combine them. However, they produced no conclusive evidence. Despite this, the search for the Philosopher's Stone was gathering pace. It was around this time that the word alchemist was created to describe these seekers of the stone.
What is alchemy? Alchemy is investigation into the properties of matter for the purpose of perfecting that matter. The alchemists are the scientists of the Middle Ages, physical scientists working with matter.
It wasn't until after the start of the Crusades in the 1100s that tales of the Philosopher's Stone first reached Europe. Muslim translations of long-lost Jewish, Egyptian, and Greek manuscripts were brought back from the Holy Land, intriguing European scholars. They began their own quest to produce the stone. The search would lead some to black magic, wife swapping, torture, and even execution. The Philosopher's Stone is a substance reputed to bring immortality and to turn base metals into gold. In medieval times, it inspired a desperate search by European scholars known as alchemists. But the stakes were so high, their subject was shrouded in secrecy.
In all the ages in which alchemy was practiced, it was regarded as what in medieval times was called a mystery. That is, a craft that you learned by apprenticing yourself, and not something whose secrets were to be broadcast.
To disguise their work, the medieval alchemists used symbols and coded words. To this day, these continue to baffle researchers.
People pick up a book of alchemy from the early modern period, and it just seems like mumbo jumbo. It's full of symbolism and pictures and strange little glyphs. And what we have to remember is that alchemy comes to us through a craft tradition. People in the craft tradition had ways of maintaining the secrecy of their skills, the secrecy of their knowledge. They did this by using symbols, by using a specialized language.
Many alchemists recorded step-by-step formulas for making the compound known as the Philosopher's Stone. But the ingredients they used remained shrouded in symbolism.
Alchemists are very concerned with secrecy. They want to share their ideas, of course, with other alchemists, but they don't want the common person to understand it because they're losing their trade secrets.
The problem is that many of these experiments involve materials that are not explicitly defined. They're given names, but we don't have a correspondence for what those names are.
For instance, a green lion swallowing the sun. Well, this really means that there's an acid which is dissolving sulfur. You have a peacock inside a flask. The peacock's tail represents an iridescent color which alchemists believe forms in their flasks just before they produce the red elixir or the Philosopher's Stone.
There's no agreement about the ingredients used in alchemical recipes. But one thing at least is clear. Whatever the mixture, it must be repeatedly purified and transformed by fire.
And it changed its essence and its substance so many times that in a way it now contained all essences, all substances, all transformations.